Keeping score? A very fun and extremely easy yogic exercise, which is also, and it's very, I think it's very easy to off as being trivial, is to actually just feel present. Present. The presence if you experience not as an abstract present. It's here. Undeniably and viscerally, it's obvious that this is present. And yet, if you look closely, what is this presence? It's very, very mysterious. It's very subtle. It's completely obvious. And self-verifying. You can't say, well, maybe it's not present. I mean, it's absurd. That it is present is the given. Well, what is this? Feel this presence. What is this presence? Process of asking a question, but just as directing your attention to stillness.
Same as what you get when you stare at the wall and you see the movement?
Well, everything's the same. I'm not jumping ahead. Let's go into the end of the book. But yes, all of these jumping off points into the same thing, into the same bottomless sea. So
if you're experiencing things, that's presence, isn't it?
Well, everything's presence per se. Shows up on a door, and that's why I call it radiant presence. Presence always shows up. It always shows up full of light and color and sound and touch and thought and everything. And that part is what I call the radiance. Presence, there's nothing but radiant presence, which is this presence, and it looks like all this. And it's grounded in itself. It's sitting on nothing. Nothing supports it. Nothing is doing it. Nothing is making it. It comes from nowhere, goes nowhere, and yet all of this is that. So all of these exercises and tricks are just checking that out.
Clarification of this thing of in awareness, and I'll close my eyes and I'll plug my ears. So I'm just noticing what is constant. Would that pretty much be what you're saying? Just notice presence.
It can be.
All the little.
This is also very subtle because it's very easy to the thing itself to a concept of it, which always coexists, especially with something like awareness. Awareness cannot be found because it never goes away, but it can't be found. And presence is like that. And feeling any of these is best done as it's like going in for a kiss. You're not trying to set up housekeeping. It's just it's an engagement, and then let it be what it is. Because it's not anything, or location or substance. All location and all substance actuality. these kinds of experiments and yogic engagements, it's always about you touch it and then you let it go. Holding it. You don't try to find anything. You touch it and then you let it do what it does. I recede, it may or may not morph, but something will happen and eventually you'll drift off into something else because drifting is what it does. This is why a gentle and playful attitude is very helpful in these kinds of experiments. You and then be with it. It will immediately start to morph and grow and change, and it goes off to wherever. And you just let it do that. Be with that. It's just very loosely and easily.
From that comment, I'm taking that that's why meditative practice for a duration of time or awareness or whatever could go off the rails because
Yes.
you haven't.
Because it's a conceptual practice. You're pretending you're doing it. Your experience is all over the place. You're drifting here and drifting there and getting distracted and coming back and floating away and remembering yesterday and feeling a sensation in your pinky and blah, 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 blah. That's what's really happening, and you're pretending, no, I'm sitting here meditating. So if you just stop the pretense, and that's the real meditation.
So if you expand the frame of what meditation, don't hold the.
Is being. Meditation is life. If you notice it, then that's artful meditation. I'm doing this or I'm doing that. Now I'm in my practice. Now I'm meditating. Now I'm doing this. Now I'm not. It's a pretense. It's spin doctoring, and it's just not effective because it's not true. Effective. Only actuality is effective. Actuality is powerful. So that's why letting it be what it is the greatest power. Full engagement with experience is to just let it be what it is. Feel it, you're touching it. You touch the experience and then be with its vitality.
So last year I had an experience where I was working with two shamans, and it was San Pedro journey, and never done anything like that. And so I'm generally really sensitive to stuff like that, and dose. And for 16 hours, well, first of all, they asked me to set an intention, and I said liberation. And well, I was basically my body completely, and so I felt like I was crucified into the ground. It was like this for 16 hours or more. Actually, they had to carry me to the car and go home. And the whole time I felt everything. Can't even describe it. But I kept hearing this message, let go of everything. And I said, what is suffering? Like, well, suffering is simply holding on to anything at all.
Yeah. Yeah. The reason that holding on to anything is suffering is because you can't. Whatever you hold on to, it's already gone. So that's frustrating as hell. I thought I had this. It was gone. I thought I had my youth. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? I thought I had my friends. Where'd it go? I thought I had my focus of attention. Where'd it go?
You're literally doing what you're talking about. Is the block.
Uh-huh.
It's sitting here telling me, no, you have to too much because you're going to, because you need to talk or whatever. It's continuously the main event.
That's its claim. And bossy. The mind's a lot like our president. It claims to be in charge. I'm the boss. I'm in charge of everything. You have to listen to me. But it's all bravado. It's bullshit. It's public relations. Because all of that mental narrative and argument. What context? It's happening in the context of this. The light is here, and the light is just here. It doesn't give a shit about what the mind's thinking or not. Sound is here. It's here, and the mind isn't touching it. It claims to. It claims to own it. It wants to own it. Bullshit. See that? Then the mind stops. I mean, the mind will continue to try and bully you. So, it's not the big giant you used to thinking of it as being. A neurotic voice over in the corner. Just a minor annoyance. It really doesn't have any. But the challenge in yoga is that we all have such a lifelong immersion, which empowers the mind's version of things and its narrative. You're this, and what's happening here is this, and what you need to do is this. But because we've all been under the sway of temptation, we get sort of mesmerized by it, and we believe it. It feels true. We've been taken over by this tiny little in the corner of experience. It's claiming to be the boss and claiming to be all powerful and claiming to be always right, and it's all lies. And in playing with experience and looking at it, and you notice that this is not true, and that's again and again little invalidations of what the mind's claiming. It just diminishes its potency. It doesn't diminish its attempting to usurp things, but it doesn't have it's telling lies. So how relevant are they? How important are they? Such and such and such and such. This isn't true. So why should I give a shit? But it will never stop trying.
I think with drugs, chemicals, medicines, whatever you want to call them, shut off parts of your mind.
Yeah.
And then you're able to relaxation or whatever it is, into experience.
Yes.
So the practice is working instead of mind chemically, the practice is understanding that it's just this small vehicle for sustaining certain things.
Yeah, and you can use drugs and altered physically altered experiences. That what is true experientially when you're stoned, say, true when you're not, and so nothing has changed, even though the mind seems to have more dominance, and the experience is still here. Needing the substance to achieve that freedom, you see that you actually have that freedom all the time. The mind, it does not have. It's a bluffer. It's bluffing. It's claiming to have all this power and authority, and it does not have it. And a large part of this exploration is discovering that fact. The mind, you can't do battle with the mind. It's it's like throwing gasoline on a fire. It gives it more juice. I can argue, but you just ignore it and look over here. You know, bothering you, look at light or something like that, and all of a sudden you're in a realm that is not of the mind. And of sensory explorations can be very useful. You'll notice that, and again, in this talk, I'm referring a lot of times to sort of the visual field, but that's completely arbitrary. The experiential field is absolutely the same. So you find something in your experience, it's there, and just mind will be over here and blah, 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 blah. But that is there and is not the mind. It's not a thought. What the mind says or calls it or doesn't call it or argues about it. And discover that there's sort of these two worlds, like I was talking about earlier, is insisting on, and there's the actual world of all of this spontaneously present in your experience. And the mind claims that it knows about all that and knows what's going on with all that, but again, it's bluffing, it's lying. And that becomes, more and more clear as you notice the way that this is. But without needing to self-medicate, you're just free of it, and then you're free to, and it's all good, it's just for fun, not to achieve anything.
Like right now, there's not really fear, but there's like a level of the mind mentioned, kind of scared of the idea that I'm this person and I'm not like this whole field that I crumble. Like I'll be a crazy person. Like,
that's the mind. That's the mind's version of a nuclear bomb threat. You don't dare play with this stuff because you're going to go crazy and run out in the streets and kill people and take drugs and live under a street and die of cancer. It's like
so many fields of experience. If I'm not here to like manage all of them, how are you going to manage?
Yeah, but it doesn't really. It's a liar. It doesn't manage shit.
Yeah.
There's no managing going on. They manage themselves. They're self-managing. It's already managed. It's pre-managed.
I can see what you mean about free fall now because it would be a free fall to like. Well,
and the mind claims it isn't. Oh, you're not in free fall. It's okay. You've got everything under control. You're here and you're at this meeting and it's all right. You're going back to your life and you'll get out of this nonsense in no time. You don't need to worry about it. And blah blah blah. But
it's actually weird.
Weird. It's actually weird whether the mind's there or not, and that the mind is spinning these lies is weird too. That's part of the free fall.
But like it ends up taking care of itself.
It always takes care of itself. I mean, look at this. Here you are. Yourself here. You're just here. You don't need to do it. Amazing. I didn't do anything, and I'm still here. The reality does itself. The mind doesn't do shit. One of the mind's biggest arguments is you're not safe in reality. You can't manage you properly. I need to do it. The mind says, no, you have to tread very carefully. Always been managing you. Reality is what's doing the mind. So if the mind's managing you, what's managing it? Where does the mind come from? I mean, reality does itself. It does everything. So reality is the ultimate safety. It's where you come from, where you are, what you're made of, and where you're going. So if that's not safe, you're screwed and the mind can't do shit about it. But here you are. I mean, you've been here a while, right? So something must be working.
Yeah.
If you consider this working.
Even wrong things is just so small that you don't even have to have stories or pay attention.
Yeah.
Like
Definitely.
even each interaction is there, but there's not like a backstory.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One tries to insert one, but it's all an overlay. It's all, just made up spin doctrine. It's really good at it. But the mind is powerful because the mind is reality. Power. Reality is what's doing the mind. Reality's version of the mind and the mind's version of reality are two different things. The mind claims it's something, but what reality is doing in the mind is not that. Never light show. Out on TV. What are you seeing? Moving lights, moving colors, and you're hearing your eardrums vibrate. That's what you're hearing, period. There, that is the information. Fabricates nothing. There's a message here, and the message is this, and I like or dislike the message, and blah, blah, blah. But that's not there. All there is light and sound. All there is vibration. And that's what's always true. That's what's true right here, right now. And the mind itself is nothing but vibration. How do you know you're thinking? How do you know thought is present? What is it that's present in your experience? It's a texture. How do you know the light is present in your experience? It's a texture, the texture of light. It's present in your experience because there's a texture of what you call the texture of thought. And thoughts say, no, I am thoughts, and the thoughts are about this, that, and the other, and we are true. That's really this light show of the texture that is spontaneously appearing. Like all experiential textures spontaneously appear. Field spontaneously appears, always full. Field spontaneously appears, always full. The thought field spontaneously appears, always full. And it's not about anything but the apparition. There's no interpretation. It means what it is.
In life, don't you have to, for example, you go to the same shop every once in a while to buy coffee or whatever it is, food, and you see the same cashier, and you develop some kind of relationship. You don't want to just start swearing at the person because that will break the relationship. So there's some intention there, and yes, it may be guided in a sense from above. So the mind still wants to relationships.
The mind usurps intention. Intention doesn't come from the mind. Intention arises from your being. You are the way you are, not because of what you think. You are the way you are. And you're motivated to do the things you do because of who you are. Someone else will be motivated to do different things. It's a check person. You're not. Why? Not because of what you think. The mind claims it's because of what you think. To usurp its hold on you by saying, be very, very careful. You better listen to me. You're going to yell at the checkout girl or whatever. Relationships. But that's if you're going to ruin all your relationships, you already would have. And they already did. The mind claims that it has control and is doing something, and it's not true. This is an interesting phenomenon. And then it's very, very paradoxical, and it's very difficult it's impossible to understand because it's irrational, but it's very, very difficult to even approach. Everything has its nature. Everything has its nature. Wherever you look, in actuality, no matter how big or small you look at, it has a nature. So, this nature has a nature. This room has a nature. nature. This planet has a nature. This country has a nature. Fleck of dust here on sitting on the computer has a nature. And that nature is to be what it is, and it executes that nature spontaneously and effortlessly. Because if you try and get to the bottom of why that's so, you can't. So all these natures are made up of open-endedness that has no nature. Very strange. And yet, you can observe that it's like that. But things are true to their nature, the way they are because of what they are. Then that change is a part of the nature that they could be something that could change. So, and this goes directly to what you're talking about. Why you're motivated, what your motivations are, why you behave the way you do, because of who you are. And you are that because you happen to be. Not a result of careful construction or contrivance or control. And if you're a controlled person, you're controlled because it's your nature to be controlled. It's your nature to be, reserved, let's say. And if you're not reserved, say you're very flamboyant and erratic, then some people are. Look at me. That's kind of a joke. If you knew me, I'm really a very boring guy.
How did you get to sort of sensing that the mind is just a narrator going along next to you, trying to describe what's happening, what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're smelling, current intentions, your motivation, your motive force. It's interpreting that too, because it doesn't really mental construct that will give you the motivation to do anything if it's not in your nature.
Yeah. The mind is like a Greek chorus standing off the side of the stage.
Yeah. What's going on the stage? Yeah.
It's a dog.
And it's drunk and lying.
Yeah.
During the love scene, they'll say, and they're about to start killing each other.
That's the issue of identification, isn't it? That you're identifying with the mind versus identifying with the larger field.
It's very subtle. Typically, it's easy to identify with an interpretive framework, identify with a self-image as defined by mind. Identification is a very fluid functioning which arises spontaneously. It has nothing to do with the mind, and even if you weren't identified with the mind, there would still be degrees of identification. Is an aspect of is a little bit related to focus. There's spontaneous phenomena within the field. There's always some kind of focus that spontaneously, or whatever it does, and likewise there's associated occasion that appears. And exactly what it is and how it works, of course, is very subtle and undefinable, and so on and so forth. The fact that heavy-handedly of who are identifying with their self-image and identifying with the interpretive framework and identifying with their mental version of things, I mean, a pseudo-ossified version of a spontaneous flowing event which is going on. And it's not really stable through a kind of a denial. Everything is always shifting wildly, but the mind is saying, no, it's the same as it was. I mean, that's how boredom comes about. Sitting in a doctor's office and there's no magazine. And you look around, you look at the wall, you look at your watch, and 5 minutes goes by, another 5 minutes goes by, and you start thinking, God, what am I going to do? It's just boring as hell. There's nothing happening here.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the mind lying again, because experience, it's always new. You always experience something you've never experienced before. Perspective, you light on something, and then you light on something else, and you light on something else, and you think of this, and you remember this, and you free associate, and cascade of amazing novelty, none of which has ever happened before. So it's completely new, completely engrossing and interesting. Nothing's happening here. This is one of the most powerful aspects of the yoga. Pay attention to the nature of what experience actually is. It invalidates the mind. It intrinsically, inherently invalidates the mind without you having to do anything about it. It demonstrates that the mind is full of shit. After it has done that again and again, repeatedly, in depth, consistently, sinks in, and the mind sort of, well, yeah, the mind's giving me its usual version of the things. It's like, it's like listening to politicians in Congress arguing their side of their lies. It's like it pays that much attention unless they're really thick. He knows these people are bullshitting. So yoga is very, very simple. So if you're getting sticky in any way, which will happen often and repeatedly and pretty much all the time, just say, fuck it. Useful mantra there is, fuck it. I'm worrying about all this taking it seriously. Like, fuck it. The bubble bursts and you go into the next thing and then get all caught up in that and then, oh, fuck it. It's easy to get sucked into our own seriousness and self-importance. Pretty much.
It's like, well, if you're not listening to me, how are you ever going to become something? But you're already everything. So, all it would be like swapping flavors,
Yeah, it's exactly like swapping flavors.
Yeah.
It's like changing your shoes. That's a big difference.
Or like you said, it's like, oh, I'm tired of vanilla, like time to be chocolate. But either way, it would be the fullness of this.
Yes, always.
Anyways.
Always. That is the truth.
Pitch or speed that we should say fuck it at?
I recommend a variation.
108 times or?
Your pleasure. If you get caught on if you get stuck in saying fuck it, then fuck that. Saying fuck it again. Fuck that. You know, spirituality, you know, mainstream, or let's say historical spirituality, has really done a vast disservice to people because it is so self-serious and so pretentious and so self-important, and it's just hogwash. It's just crap. Feel like they're important and egotistic, but it's inculcated everyone the idea of, oh, this stuff is so sacred and so special. It's sacred, but sacred is what we got. So it doesn't, it's invulnerable. It's Teflon. You can't damage the sacredness. It's not like you need to tread carefully lest you crack the sacredness. You know? Oh, we must speak quietly here. Damn it. It's like, fuck that shit. It's just bullshit. It's lies. Be loose is be easy. You're alive. Be alive. You know? And that has as much seriousness as you need. And how much seriousness does that really have at the end of the day? So, you know, it's natural to approach all this stuff with a kind of a somber attitude and a dutiful, you know, approach and a seriousness and all that. You know, all of that is just completely contrary to the spirit of what it is. It is loose, it is spontaneous, it is creative, it is inventive, it is funny. Weird shit that always happens. I mean, you know.
That was one of the most fundamental things in that experience I was talking about yesterday. I had it was just impossibly imagine doing anything.
Yeah.
Just being was fun.
Yeah, it totally is. I mean, it's totally fun. It's fun. It's amazing. It's astounding. It's bizarre. It's entertaining. I mean, it's, you know, it's just. And it is that whether you're a stick in the mud or not. So why be a stick in the mud? Have a good time, in which case get real good at it. But really?
It's funny, I think I got raised by a very staunch, like, Baptist Christian mother.
Ah.
A lot of guilt in that religion. And that's kind of like the narration in this head is like there should be like holier, like sacred, like a human evolution, a progression. And then when you can start seeing it, I mean, it's kind of awfully funny. Really.
It is.
That, I mean, that's kind of.
It's sad that people find themselves inflicted into this, you know, this sticky, yucky perspective. I mean, what a shame. I mean, have a little fun, you know, kick up your heels, enjoy yourself.
I would think most religions have the whole thing of guilt, and I think primarily bureaucracy for control of people, the population.
Sure. Well, humans are tribal, and the main enforcement of tribalism is conformity.
Yeah.
And you know, we have a powerful instinctive urge to imitate the people around us. So if you're in a group that is a certain way, you will have a strong instinctive inclination to mimic them. You'll find yourself dressing the way the people around you are dressing over time. You'll find yourself using the same mannerisms and language over time, because it's our natural tribal evolutionary instinct to do so. As a means of control and manipulation, we want to, you know, like politicians do. You know, all the way modern politics polarizes people and capitalizes on their primitive fears and religious fears and all these other silly things. And by capitalizing on those primal tribal urges, then they get people so worked up that they can then go off and steal all the money, which is all they really care about. And this is how it's, you know, has organized itself throughout the ages, where a few opportunistic people are running things for their own benefit and getting everyone to go along because of taking through techniques of taking advantage of their gullible tribal conformity. Sexuality is no different.
Yeah, in watching television last night, it's kind of like you take this wild, open-ended consciousness and it's programming default responses to situations. I mean, obviously I was reading into like the airline thing, but just when you watch TV, like that's a mental programming to this, so that you have these storylines and follow a certain trajectory, and like you were saying, it control.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about, for me anyway, from a psychological perspective, is that we do learn things by mimicking our parents and how we cut an apple or how we go to the bathroom. I mean, it starts very, very early on because it's so natural. Some people, as you say, to have the inclination or the temperament or the nature to take advantage of that, like a weed that takes over a field. There's no reality in any of their thinking, but it's their nature to take over the field.
Right.
And the field grows a certain way, so they expand on the very nature of our way of what we appear to do in order to learn things. Animals learn the same way from their, majority of.
Sure. Learning is an exercise of functional intelligence.
Right.
Good for life. Life learns and is more functional. And conformity is functional too. If you conform to the tribe, you're less likely to get eaten by the predators because they're all huddling together instead of pushing each other away. Unscrupulous people take advantage of that and get manipulative, and the whole thing gets usurped. And what is supposed to be a mechanism of safety becomes suffering. Fuck that. Jesus. Where was I going? Good God. Why don't we not go for lunch? It was at 12:11. We can be 1:30. 1:30. Why not? That's enough time.
1:30?